one thing we did want to see tonight heading into this game, because I'm sure like a lot of Celtics fans had, especially with Fournier out with COVID, a lot of Celtics fans had crippling FOMO watching Aaron Gordon and the Nuggets run off. Was it 7 or 8 straight wins? I forget.
Eight. It was 8.
8, right? 8 straight wins. And, this every basketball writer and everybody covering the team or just watching the team is talking about how the Nuggets unlocked Gordon, how he'd been in jail in Orlando. And, now his talents are shining through and blah, blah, blah. And you're seeing the box scores and you're seeing the highlights. And Jimmy's watching YouTube clips of Gordon dunking. And he's all bummed
Tatum
out.
Gave him the business.
And then Tatum friggin' poofed it on him. No, I mean, and then I swear, I was in and out. I've got kids. I was running around. I was watching and this and that. And for a moment, the first few minutes of the game up until like first quarter, I had to check. I was like, is Gordon out tonight? Is today too? I didn't notice he existed. Okay. And that's like the worst thing. Gordon playing the role of Grant Williams today was Aaron Gordon. Like I didn't even know he was there,
right.
Like at all, except the most notable thing he did was get dunked on by Tatum. He was invisible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A non-factor. And so like you feel better about this as a Celtics fan, right? Because you're like, this is the guy I didn't mortgage my future for. Like I can live with that.
Especially the way Smart's playing. Yeah. I mean, that was the tough breaking point. Like, do you want to give up that core piece for this guy who's largely a question mark, at least when it came to his history there, and you can project what he would grow into for years to come. But Smart was the better option, and that's why they didn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, I think, when you're without your starting point guard and Jamal Murray, I think that throws everything off, especially for a new guy like Gordon, who is probably still learning a lot about this team with limited practices. And now he's got Campazzo in there, doing his thing, running around. Like, shout out to Campazzo, man. He's like a ball of energy out there.
He's tough, man.
Yeah,
he's tough.
I'm a big fan of him. Yeah.
I think that
Argentina.
Bit of a disconnect for a guy like Gordon, who, as Bobby mentioned, he's kind of limited in what he can do out there offensively. Especially being on the new team. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, he was borderline invisible, like you said, and except for that yam that he got.
But I can't give him the out that not having Jamal. I can't give Gordon the out that not having Jamal around kind of hurt his game, because remember, the primary facilitator for that team is Jokic, who once again leads like the NBA in touches. So the ball is literally in his hands damn near more than anyone else in the NBA. Forget about just the roster. I just thought Aaron Gordon just didn't, to John's point, he went Casper the Friendly Ghost on us today.
Yeah.
We knew he was out there, but we really didn't see him.
Right.
We really didn't see him, other than, again, his most notable accomplishment in however minutes he played. I think he played like 30, 35 minutes, something like that, was him getting dunked on by Jason Tatum. He played 31 minutes.
And he saw it coming a mile away. Like,
he did.
I'm coming to dunk on you now. And he did it.
He even fouled him on the play, John. He fouled Tatum on the dunk. They didn't call it.
By the way, MVP of this chat is everybody who's been saying that Joe Sway's in the dojo right now. I freaking love
it. I got that last week too.
Someone just said Thai restaurant, which I can get down with that too.
Yo, Mr. Miyagi, give me an hour to talk to you guys. That's it.
I love it.
Sunday
that is a great look.
Joe Sway's in the dojo. I love it.
Yeah, this is what it's all about right here.
No, it's great. But so again, as a Celtics fan, you feel a ton better watching this game, because again, a lot of these guys, unless you're Bobby and you're up there watching friggin' League Pass, till 4 a.m, and then waking up at 8 bleary eyed, and then, watching what you DVR'd and missed. Most people aren't watching. Most people
deep with that.
No, but most people aren't watching every single game, every single team. You see flashes. You see them when they come to town. Sure. You catch national TV matchups, the TNTs. You're not getting lots of those with Orlando. So how many full games are people seeing of Aaron Gordon, in Boston, or really out of market? Not tons, right? Yeah. You see him, you see some. So when you see a full game, you're like, oh, you get a better sense of like, what is everything they do. But when the Celtics played him, he was dog shit too, I don't
want to go that far, because
I'm not saying he is. I thought it was. I was on the side of making the trade. All I'm saying is, if you're a Celtics fan,
no, it's not about that either.
You've now seen him a couple times and not been super impressed. That's all I'm saying.
he's a phenomenal fit in Denver. He
Yeah.
just is. And that 8-0 stretch was the real deal. He played well for the entire run that they had after the deadline. And then he had a stinker tonight, which allows us to do this thing here. The question was whether if you were swapping out Smart and giving up all that you had to as Boston and then putting him in that spot, taking away your playmaker. I mean, Denver has 3 or 4 great playmakers and he never has to do a single thing in that role. All of a sudden here, he'd be doing a ton of that like he was in Orlando. And then you lose everything that you would with Smart. So it's always that uneven, like what is Denver giving up? What is Boston giving up? And really all Denver gave up was a draft pick that wasn't playing for them. Wing, who was hurt all year and was a contract they wanted to get rid of anyway, and a pick in like 2025. So they, for now got him essentially for free. And Boston was going to have to give up a real important rotation piece to get him. So that was the unevenness of that situation that, ended up with the result that it did.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a lot of truth there. 2 completely different roles. We were talking whether he came to the Celtics and then compared to him going to the Denver Nuggets. But I just think this was such an important win for the Celtics team because, again, we talk about the West Coast road trip and the fact that they've had this newfound attitude the Celtics have, right, the last 5 days where it's like us against them. And you know what? We're taking the show on the road. We're going to prove to everyone. And we just rattled the MVP candidate, or at least my favorite candidate for MVP in Jokic. And I think that there's a lot of significance in that because, obviously that team, what he does out there, his attitude reflects a lot of what that team is about. And when he's disconnected from the team like that, I mean, you just saw that their entire approach or their attitude or their, coming out of the timeout was just deflated. I mean, that took a lot out of Denver. And you have to give the Celtics credit for that, regardless if you look at the score and say, oh, well, Celtics, they didn't grab their first lead until the 4th quarter or whatever it was. Yeah, but the Celtics hung around and they got to the free throw line and they were aggressive in their offensive approach. Whereas before they weren't, they would be settling for 3-pointers. And before they would have Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum save the day. But no, that wasn't the case. It was everyone going in the paint, right? 20 plus points in the paint before the 4th quarter. They finished with 56 points in the paint, just being aggressive, regardless if they were down by double digits or not. And it paid off. Obviously the offense picked up in the 4th quarter in that second half. But the defense was protecting the paint as well. I thought they did a really good job with Jokic or whoever it was, whether it was JaMychal Green getting frustrated, trying to get his shots, those high percentage shots that they usually get so easily. The Celtics made it hard for them, and they were really in their own way, it seemed like, at least before they gave up the lead as a whole. Regardless, though, I'm still surprised Coach Malone benched him that early. What was it, 5 minutes left in the 4th quarter? I mean, I get it. He was frustrated. His attitude was out the window, but I was surprised we didn't see him at least a minute later where it was still a 9-point game they got into at one point, and I'm like, man, they're really gonna bench Jokic for the night. But he was in the doghouse.
Yeah,
but I thought Jokic checked out even before he got benched. He was still putting up Jokic numbers. He was still getting his numbers, but there was and he's a pretty laid back guy to begin with, but he seemed ridiculously laid back. I mean, you would have thought that he had this pressing matter that had. That this basketball game was interfering with him getting to wherever the hell he need to get to. You can't be like that at any point in the season. And I know that to some extent they feel like they're playing with house money because they've won 8 in a row and the Celtics have not played great basketball this year, but they left the door open for the Celtics to come in and give the Celtics credit. They didn't allow the moment to just pass them by. They grabbed a hold of it, took it for their own, got the win, did all the little things that we haven't talked about, that we've been talking about the last few weeks, like turnovers. I think they had like 9 for the entire game. And we've seen some games where they'd have more than that in like the first half. And the fact that when they did turn the ball over, they weren't letting Denver get out and get easy buckets. Denver, I think, had maybe 4 fast break points or something like that. So, and the bench, even the Celtics bench wound up outscoring Denver's second unit, which again, the game, some of that had to do with the game at the very end getting a little bit out of hand and the Celtics taking control. But the point is, they did so many of the little things that they have been completely crap in the bed up to this point in the season at doing against a quality team on the road.